All right, today trying to train away my terrible shoulder mobility. So if you're like me, if you're a chiropractor and you want to push it all day long, we get what's called lower cross syndrome, where the QLs are kind of tight. It kind of arches our back, and that really turns the shoulders in. Even if we're doing this, the shoulders are still turned in. I did this for a lot of years, trying to correct the neck, thinking like, oh yeah, I'm opening up the shoulders. It actually rotates them in even more. It doesn't help, and it is a big problem. Your foundation is a big problem when you're trying to address the shoulders. So there's two barbell things I like. Doing a low bar back squat, which I did before, talking about the SI joints. Today I'm going to do it on a bench, but also I like the snatch. If you're not used to the snatch, just start with even just like a light bar, broom handle, work through it. The wide grip really trains. The more wider you are, the more the shoulders are pinned in external rotation. And a lot of people confuse external rotation with the shoulder blades hugging. But here, the shoulder blades actually have to be wide. So you want the shoulder blades wide, the shoulder, the glenohumeral joint, turned. And that's the trickiest part. Because I can be here, I can pinch my shoulder blades, and my glenohumeral joint is still internally rotated. And that's the tricky part. That's the thing that I've messed up for a lot of years. And also working on the low back too. So these two, good on your off day, work through it. So just do one little snatch here, and then I'll show you a few of the low bar back squat, just on a bench, just to really stretch out the QL. You're not really coming up and down, just kind of breathing a little deeper, stretch that QL. But it also has to be kind of active because it's supporting that weight. When you do your back squat, back tends to arch. And I'm already too arch, so I want to work against that a little bit. Work on the hip mobility instead of the spine mobility. Amazing. So I'm moving my feet out a little bit, then moving back in. Feet are in, it kind of changes my hip. Can't get as deep in the position, but that's not the goal. You want to hit the hip mobility. QL feels nice and stretched out. That's going to take away the arch in my spine, too much lumbar curve. Bringing the feet in also helps ankle mobility, which my ankles, terrible ankle mobility as well. That I blame on broken heels and surgery, but always working on it, even though you have surgery. Keep strengthening. It's good to add weight, just a little bit, because it automatically increases your load tolerance, your resisting of gravity, your spine's activation. Even if you're coming into a bit of a flex state, that's good, where you're lengthen your thoracic spine, your lower back spine, and you lock it. So even that kind of looks like bad posture. A lot of people are like, this is good posture. My pack says otherwise. I've learned that. And I was like, oh yeah, we're supposed to be here. Maybe if you're really posterior pelvic tilted, that's something you want to work on. But if you're like me and you're already lower cross syndrome, you actually want to expand and lengthen, push those shoulder blades apart. That's why the wide grip snatch is good, because then the shoulders can't raise where they extend and they protract. You're keeping them sucked into the socket, which helps. And then even on that little stretch there, that low bar back squat with the seat, get the bar a little lower than normal, and then like on a back squat, and the hands are wide too, and it just stretches out all this stuff here without my shoulder blades coming in, because I've expanded the whole cylinder. And that's good foundation training stuff too, training that diaphragm expanding in all directions. And you notice I probably did some breathing there. I did do some breathing there. You probably noticed. Inhale, expand the cylinder. Exhale, keep that expansion. Working on breathing, getting a little deeper, little deeper, little deeper. Don't go super deep if you're super bendy. And if you are super bendy, like you're just you got the yoga spine, I call it, this will keep you a little more honest. So you got a little weight, so your body has to resist while you get the stretch. That way you'll get the stretch where you want it. Because if your spine is always doing the bending, it's always doing your motion, you can end up with some very restricted hips. Even though you could be like super bendy and do all the fancy yoga moves, you can still have a lot of restriction. That's going to just lead to instability over time and arthritis. So balance out a lot of your stretching. And sometimes I say, don't even stretch. I don't even like the word stretch. I'm getting stretch here. Good, safe stretch, active stretch. Save your time. So if you have to go home, you have to stretch away your pain all the time. It comes back, right? Because you haven't addressed the weaknesses. And the weaknesses tend to be the problem. And that goes back to that sacroiliac joint issue we talked about last time, where one is unstable, it's got too much movement. So the last thing I want to do is stretch and create more movement. Not like the restricted side is the problem, but the other side is restricted because weakness that's caused that SI joint to open up too much. So you close down the left, you stabilize that. The restriction on the right will probably resolve on its own.